I got a question, man. I saw something yesterday. Well, maybe a couple days. I don't know. Pastor Jamal Bryant.
Okay.
You heard of him?
Yeah. Atlanta, New Birth.
Okay. So he said something about he would let people use his land to grow weed. Like, what? The good idea or bad idea?
He wouldn't let people use his land.
Because he's saying, it will bring young men to church to teach them about farming and all that stuff.
He said he would not.
He would.
Yeah.
Would you do it?
No.
Oh, God, I'm about to make some calls, but go ahead.
No. We got 3 acres. No. I get the business principle, but the scripture talks about don't let your good be evil spoken of. Paul also says in another section of the scripture where he says, if your right hand, well, Jesus said, if your right eye or right hand offends your brother, cut it off. So there's consistent scriptures, I can go through it. There's consistent scriptures that talk about if I'm doing something as a believer that offends you or that turns you off, that I have control of, then in your presence or around you, I shouldn't do it. The illustration was given, if you don't eat pork, but I do eat pork.
So you shouldn't fry bacon in the house?
When I'm in front of you, if it's that offensive to you, I should refrain, and I definitely don't need to offer you, hey man, you want some pork and lean, man? So how does that relate to the weed conversation? Weed is still illegal in some states.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately.
Listen, to each his own. Now we can go down that whole, theological debate.
Call?
I'm not doing this.
Good.
So the conflict will be, there are those who preach against smoking of any kind. So to grow a crop on a church property, to some would be heretical. Oh my goodness, what are you doing? Just like if someone says, I'm going to keep an acre for poppy seed, or for the plant where cocaine and opioids come from. Oh my God, what? It'll be a conflict. It'll be a conflict. So I get the medicinal conversation, all that good stuff, but again, there's some people who don't hear that.
You can't smoke anything? Like cigars?
To each his own.
But so it's...
Is there a scripture, since you want to go there, since you asked, but this is for the audience, I'm going to stop looking at you. Is there a scripture that says, thou shalt not smoke, and smokers will not make it in the kingdom? There's not one scripture that says, thou shalt not smoke. Okay. The connotation, though, is anything that is habitual or that has control over you or that makes you do something, that means you don't have control over the earth. Our first commandment was to be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, and have dominion. Having something you grew, having dominion over you enough to get you to do something else.
What about cigars? Like people that smoke.
Each his own. Some people, right? Because to your point, some people say, well, you don't inhale, you just puff out it. Some people, but then it's just you can take this. If I say it, well, it affects your health, then you can say, well, fast food does also. This is where this part of the conversation gets to, where the scripture says you have to work out your own soul salvation with fear and trembling. I know Christians, I know preachers today who smoke cigars and are great men of God who live holy lives. They enjoy a cigar amongst friends and go from there. I also know people on the other end of the spectrum that if they saw someone smoking a cigar, they were like, yo man, I'll never listen to you again. This is where, you know what I'm saying, it's just where it's a complicated kind of thing. You just got to know who you're amongst. So if you say you smoke a cigar, I'm like, yo, what you do? You say you smoke weed.
Who said that?
I'm just saying, because you've been trying to make phone calls since we've been on.
I'm just saying, don't be.
So it's just complicated. And then it becomes complicated because then there's your personal theology versus what you live, before people, so that you don't offend people.
Right. So back to what you were saying, offending people, maybe if somebody's eating pork or whatever. So I had a discussion with an old girlfriend back in the day. Her dad was a preacher, and I'm a beer drinker. And she said, if my dad were to visit,
oh, you got to put that up.
You can't have that beer. And like you talking about in my refrigerator, I can't have my beer, which was bought legally. Mm-hmm. I can't have my beer in my refrigerator. You think I'm about to put my beer?
And you were like, I ain't doing that.
I ain't doing that. Mm-hmm. So you saying, like,
not to appease him, you're not going to do something in your own home. That two things can be true. You're working out your thing, so he shouldn't have anything to do with your refrigerator. That's true. Second, since you're working through it, you know, he shouldn't have anything to say anyway. But now, if it was me and he came to my house and I hate beer, never have, then
probably not man enough for beer.
Right. The beer is just a horrible taste, you know. Then that's a different thing, because now brother to brother, it could be offensive. Brother to brother, it could be whatever.